Hey folks, please tell me in the chat if you can hear me. I'm just doing a sound check real quick. Thank you. We will be going live at around 3 to 5 after. I just want to make sure everyone will be here for this. Thank you folks for tuning in. Okay, folks, welcome to the presentation. I'm going to do one more mic check right here. I heard that I was maybe a little too loud earlier. How are we sounding, guys? Can we hear me in the chat? Yes or no, please? It's a little loud. Alright, let me turn down a little bit. How are we sounding now? Sounds good now. Yeah, you aren't going to be able to see me. I don't have a lot of upstream, so unfortunately, this is going to be a little untraditional. Going to be a PowerPoint, but I will be watching the chat, and I will be doing this as well. We also will have a Q&A at the end, so if anyone would like to call in and ask any questions, go ahead right now. The number is 858-216-3433. Again, that is 858-216-3433 if you have any questions, because I want to make this as interactive as possible, because unfortunately I don't have a lot of upstream, like I said. So there we go. I guess I'll introduce myself. My name is Corey Moore. I am the host of Voice of Radical Dissent. It is a program over on LRN.FM. I'm a left libertarian activist, and basically I just believe that people should be free, and I disagree with a lot of libertarians on how that would be, but I feel that there is a consensus there among the people that disagree and the people that agree, if that makes any sense. But obviously I'm here to show all of you out there and how you can become the media, and it's so important to me to just spread this information that I've learned the past couple of years, because there's so many things out there on the internet that tells you how to do this, but in reality, none of these things really give you an indication or give you like the real truth about how to go about and doing all this stuff. So here we go. So what is wrong with old media? Well, for one, it is difficult to break into. The costs can reach into the tens or hundreds of thousands just when you're just getting started. That's a really big deal. You don't want to go into something that is going to be a huge investment when you don't have the money, obviously. So a lot of people pick different careers where they can make money. And if it's going to cost an investment, like tens of hundreds of thousands, they're not going to do it. Unpopular opinions are censored by established old media enterprises. There's a reason why we still have, Fox News showing the judge and Stossel, but they can't say certain things. It's fairly obvious. There's no journalistic integrity at this point. And the problem is, you have this infotainment idea. Nobody understands what real journalism is anymore. So there's no journalistic integrity within old media, because it's all about profits, and it's all about ratings, and not in a good way. Profit's not bad, but when your motivation to do news and to inform people is profit, and that's your sole motivation, then you're going to do some shady things just simply because that's the reality of how news works. Old media is dying. Newspaper circulation, it's down dramatically since the year 2000. People are not watching TV on the TV anymore. They got DVRs, which I guess is still on the TV, but they skip the commercials. They watch Hulu, Netflix. The old media paradigm is done. It's absolutely done. And young people get all of their information, or most of their information, from the internet. And the last problem with old media is there is virtually no libertarian influence. I named Stossel and the Judge, and we got those within the past year, and that's about the extent of it. There's a few writers for some of these newspapers. I believe there's a couple for the New York Times, but there really isn't that much. And I keep cutting out, hoping that that's okay. So what is new media? New media is the interactive digital media, such as the internet, as opposed to traditional media, such as print or television. Examples of this, blogging, podcasting, YouTube videos, wikis, DVDs, social networking, these types of things. It is the fastest growing form of media, and it's something that you can be a part of. It's not very hard to get involved with this at all. So what are some examples of libertarian new media? Ways that libertarians have taken advantage of this whole new media paradigm. Well, there's blogging and news websites. Freedom's Phoenix is one, freekeen.com, Infowars.com, C4SS, those types of sites. C4SS does great. They kind of mix the new and the old. Infowars is just its own entity right there. Freedom's Phoenix, it is what it is, and Freekeen's just a blog. They're all different in their own ways, but they're good because they go across those different ways, and they do all these things that are different. They're unique. There's podcasting and netcasting, like Free Domain Radio, School Sucks Podcast, Anti-War Radio, Free Talk Live, those types of things. They're very successful in those realms. There's internet radio, like LRN.FM, Alex Jones, and various blog talk radio shows. YouTube. People like Mike Shanklin, Stefan Molyneux, Reason TV, they've been really successful at taking YouTube and taking advantage of YouTube and grabbing that audience that is there. And we'll discuss why YouTube is so important coming up here in a minute. Other examples. We Are Change, distributed DVDs en masse. A few, they still do this. They started a couple years ago. And that is also new media in some form. You're giving people DVDs to go and watch at home. And Break the Matrix, they attempted a internet TV network not too long ago, a couple years back. And now they're just a blog site, but that was just really revolutionary. And there we go. Alright, there was a lot of lag there as far as the chat room. Yes, I know. I want to point out the Alex Jones thing. I put him there just for his successes. I know a lot of people don't think he's libertarian or anything. I simply put him there simply because he is successful and he shows the things that you can do with new media. And he's libertarian enough where I felt that it was appropriate. So, take it as what it is. So how can you be a part of it? It's easier than you think. All you need to start is a computer and an idea. And I'm going to emphasize this. You need an idea. You need an idea. You cannot just go for this and do it willy-nilly without having an idea. So let's start with the first thing we were going to talk about. Blogging and news sites. Blogging is probably the most effective way to get our message out to a mass audience. Simply, it's just sitting in front of your computer, coming up with story ideas, writing them out, being somewhat of a journalist. There's a lot of ways to blog. But it's probably the most effective because people do read blogs. Even if they won't watch videos, they won't listen to radio shows, they won't listen to podcasts, people read blogs. The majority of the top 40 libertarian websites have some form of blogs. I did a statistic out, but it's true. The top 5 libertarian websites are blogs. There is, according to the latest Alexa ratings, the top 5 libertarian websites on the internet are blogs. LouRockwell.com is the 6,700th most popular website in the world. It ranks in the top 1,000 within the United States, and it's worth around $149,000 according to, I believe it's RateMySite.com. There's a lot of statistics out there for that, and it's almost impossible to get a real metric, but it ranks very high up there, and that is the kind of money you could be selling your blog for. It's probably worth a lot more. I would say probably closer to $1 million, but that's what the site ranked it as. And if you can write, you can blog. Again, you have to understand how to write and everything, but if you can do so, and you've got interesting things to say, you can do it. It's not, there's no real entrance fee, I guess I'm going to have to say to that. So continuing on with blogging, you will need a website. Absolutely will need a website. You don't want to blog on Facebook. You know, a lot of people blogged on MySpace. No, you need a website. If you're going to blog and you're going to blog successfully, you need something people can link to. WordPress.com, Blogger.com, Tumblr.com, Posterous.com. Those are great blogging platforms. Very easy to set up, very easy to use. You will need a unique name and concept. Don't just do something.wordpress.com if the site isn't a personal blog. If it's going to be a blog that you're trying to spread the message of liberty with, buy a custom domain name. They're not very expensive, about $10 a year. And I think if you're going to be blogging, you can probably make $10 a year back simply by putting advertisements on your website. And you will need to advertise and market. Absolutely advertise and market. Market, market, market. How will I find your blog if you don't tell me about it? And I forgot to mention this, and somebody mentioned it in the chat room. And I should have, because I'm looking at this is a big oversight, guys. Sorry, a little nervous on doing this. My URL is in the bottom corner right there, CoreyMoore.net/Agora. I'm offering new media services at a highly discounted rate to what my normal consultant fee is. So if you go to CoreyMoore.net/Agora during this live presentation and you fill out the form, I will give you that discount. So again, it's CoreyMoore.net/Agora. And there's a few people in the chat room right now, like Thomas Holbrook II, that I built websites for. They can attest to my professionalism and the quality of the website. So again, CoreyMoore.net/Agora. Your name, your email, what have you, put that in there, and we'll go ahead and work together and get your media enterprise up and going. Podcasting. This is probably my realm here, something I probably know the most about as far as out of all these topics. Podcasting is the transmission of audio or video content from a web server to an audience using RSS technology. Podcasts are downloaded automatically using podcast clients, and they can be listened to via computer or portable audio player, like an iPod or a Zune or something like that. Cell phones are becoming more popular with podcasting. It fulfills the need for instant gratification championed by the current youth generation, and I will actually say this is absolutely true from everyone I know that listens to this type of content that is my age. They'd much rather listen to a podcast than a live streaming event, whether that is audio, video, what have you. Podcasting is very good for that. It's automatic. It's instant gratification. I love podcasts. I love podcasting, and it's just what it is. Entry-level costs are a bit higher than blogging, but they're not prohibitive at all. Very, very cheap to really get started. Not a huge investment comparative to a lot of other methods. So if you want a podcast, you're going to need hosting. You can do hosting on Podbean, Podomatic, Blip TV, Amazon S3. If you have your own server, you can do it there, although I don't really suggest it simply because you'll go through a lot of bandwidth that way. I would suggest the last two. Podbean and Podomatic are nice. They're set up for podcasts, but unfortunately, because they're set up for podcasts, they limit how many episodes you can upload and what have you. Blip.tv is absolutely free. There's no cost in doing it at all, and it's probably the best method if you're going to do audio or video podcasts, especially audio. Amazon S3 is just a service where you can upload your audio or video files, and you pay per download, basically how much bandwidth you use. It's still a great service and a lot cheaper than what you're going to pay with a hosting package. You're going to need a website. Platforms like WordPress and Tumblr, those are great for simple podcasts. You just publish what you're doing. I would suggest WordPress simply because there are plugins built in for it that make it great. Tumblr if you're just throwing something up. iTunes. Do not forget to put your podcast in the iTunes store. It's probably the best way people can find it. A lot of people out there use iTunes on both the Mac and the PC, and it gives you the opportunity to allow people to find your programming. Like if I go to my program, if I go to my iTunes listing, a lot of other programs show up in your recommended. The No State Project, Thinking Liberty, and programs like that. They'll show up below that. And when I go to theirs, mine shows up because it goes by the podcast that people are subscribed to similarly. So let's say that person X, well, we'll just use a real name that's in the chat room. Let's say Taran Lupo decides that he wants to subscribe to Thinking Liberty. Well, he looks on iTunes, and my podcast is there, so he clicks subscribe, and there you have it. And you've got another subscriber, simply because you're on iTunes. And it's no effort there, other than putting the listing up. Tracking. Make sure you have some form of tracking. If you're going to sell advertising or anything like that, or even not, it's good to know who's downloading your content. It may be included in your podcasting service if you're using like Blip.tv or Podbean or Podomatic. If you're using something like Amazon S3, Blubrry.com, BLUBRRY.com is a great resource for your podcast tracking. And it allows you to see how many podcasts you've downloaded and where they've downloaded them from, what they're using to download it. It's great for tracking. Marketing. Facebook, Twitter, podcast directories, link exchanges. Facebook, obvious, make a Facebook page. Twitter, make a Twitter account and post to that. And we'll discuss those in a little bit more detail coming up here. Podcast directories. This is very important. I've gotten a lot of discovery just by simply submitting it to podcast directories. If you just search them on Google, you can come up with a bunch of them. Spend about 7 hours in a day. I mean, it takes a while, but submit it to all of them. And you might get a spike in traffic one day when one of those podcast directories decides to put your podcast on their front page. And I've had that happen to me a couple of times. So make sure you do that. And link exchange. Link exchange is so important. You want to make sure that you're trading links with other libertarian enterprises because simply because the people need to know other libertarian things that are going on. You don't want to feel alone, so you trade with, let's say I wanted to trade with C4SS. I give C4SS a banner to put on their website, they give me one to put on my website, and bada bing, bada boom, we're ready to go. I think this chat is not refreshing enough, but that's okay. So there we go. That's what you have as far as podcasting goes. Oh, there's more. I'm sorry. Sound quality is extremely important. This is my setup right now. I know the sound quality isn't great simply because I don't have a lot of upstream and I wanted to make sure this video sounded good. But sound quality is extremely important. If you're just starting off, you can use a simple $40 headset. You can buy it at Walmart or off Amazon or something like that. It'll work for yourself if you're just talking by yourself, something like Stepan Molyneux. You know, he uses like a $40 headset. It sounds great. If you're doing a more professional show, if it's more of a serious show, you want to have a lot of participants, you want to go out, buy a $60 microphone and a $150 mixer off of Amazon. Very easy to set up. Not a lot of money there invested. Okay, recording. Audacity is a free and good audio recorder. Absolutely free. It's open source software. All you need to do there is download it, open it up, and it works for you. Adobe Audition, it's a more professional level app. You have to buy this unless you know how to get a hold of the software for free. And I'm going to tell you, it's not very difficult. So if you have no qualms about intellectual property, just ask me outside of the show or outside of this presentation, and I'll help you get set up there. I have no qualms about it. I have no qualms about going on a public display right here and saying that. I'll help you find the stuff for free. It's very easy to use and get a hold of. So, and if you're going to use audio, or if you're going to do an audio podcast, video is a bit different, and it's kind of outside the realm of what we're talking about. But if you're going to do audio, 64 kilobits per second, 100 hertz mono, it'll give you a small file. It'll be about 15 to 20 megs per hour, which, you know, if you're doing a podcast, unless you're also doing a radio show along with that podcast, if it's simply just a podcast, you shouldn't need the podcast to go for longer than an hour. So 64 kilobits a second, 44 100 hertz mono. It's small, but for talk, it sounds absolutely great. That's what I use. I've never heard anyone say that the podcast sounds bad, that the compression sounds too horrible. Because again, you got to remember the types of devices that people are listening on are going to be computer speakers and iPods. And when it comes to talk radio, it doesn't matter that much. Internet radio. This is something that I'm really interested in, and I hope someone out there will get the motivation to do something about this as well. Again, check out the website, CoreyMoore.net/Agora, to just send me a quick email if you're interested in working with me on this. Around 70 million people listen to internet radio every month. That's a good number of the population. That's around 22% of the population, 70 million people. That's a pretty big reach. Internet radio attracts a well-educated and employed audience, and that's very important. If you're trying to sell advertising, if you're trying to get the message out to people, you're going to want well-educated and employed. Well, you're going to want well-educated simply because you want people that can understand what you're talking about, and you want employed because you want to be able to sell advertising to people and be able to make a profit off of this. Because again, there's no reason to do this unless you're going to make a profit, or at least be able to live off of it. And I know I'm bringing up Alex Jones again, and I apologize, just simply because he is probably the most successful in this category. Alex Jones currently has the most popular internet radio show. He has around 18,000 listeners live and 8,000 listening to replays 24 hours a day. That means that he has 18,000 people on average listening while he's doing his 3-hour broadcast. And the rest of the day, he has another different 8,000 people every hour listening. If you do the math, I mean, there's no way to get a good number, but if you do the math, you probably come up close to 500,000 to 1 million people listening just on the internet to him alone. Just on internet radio. That's not including podcasts. That's not including YouTube. That's just his internet live radio internet stream. It's a very, very open market at this point. Internet radio is a very open market, and the good news, and I'm kind of spilling the beans on this, but I really don't care. GM and Ford are incorporating internet radio technology into their next model year cars, which means if you jump on this now, you will be able to get in on this. You start an internet radio network, or just a channel, or just a show, you will be able to jump on this and get on the air within people's cars, which is the big stumbling block in internet radio as it is right now. Okay, yeah, I messed this one up a little bit. Internet radio depends on streaming technology, and a few of those streaming technologies include Shoutcast, Icecast, Live 365, and a lot of proprietary services. A lot of radio stations out there, and a lot of radio networks like Clear Channel, their stations, they use proprietary services. They're out there, they're expensive. You can use them, but there are free services like Shoutcast, Icecast, that you don't have to pay anything other than what your audience is. You pay for the amount of bandwidth being used. Excuse me. So, if you're going to do this, it's a similar setup to podcasting. Instead of just recording the audio, you're going to stream it to a server. And we'll talk about the actual technology here coming up in the next slide, I believe. Or maybe not. So you just stream it to the server. And you still want to podcast this. You don't want to just do internet radio. That's the folly of a lot of people. That's where they fail. If you just do the internet radio, you're going to get between 100, well, you might get between 10 and 100 listeners. And, yeah, that's all well and good, but if you podcast that programming, you can get another 100 to 700 to 1,000 listeners simply by just putting the audio file on the internet and marketing it correctly. Streaming software. You know, you can use Winamp. That's the simplest way of doing it. There's a plugin for Winamp. It's the simplest way of doing it. It's also the most complex in a lot of ways, simply because the technology is not that great. Sam Broadcaster is more of a up-level kind of thing. It has a little automation in it. It costs around $300, and you can get a hold of it for free, just like Adobe Audition. Just ask me how after the program. Nicecast, if you're on a Mac, Nicecast is what you're going to be looking for. And Radio Boss. It's another automation one. It costs some money. You can find it free online, but it's a good program also. And it'll do a lot of the same things, and the interface is not as scary as something like a SAM Broadcaster. The way listeners listen in, they listen through a link on your website, through a media player like iTunes, Winamp, Windows Media Player, Real Player, if anyone still uses that. You can also incorporate a Flash player on the website, ways to incorporate your stream website. Mostly people are going to listen to a player on their computer and also in their cars. And just like these other things, you're going to need a website. You're going to need to market. You're going to need to do these things. You can't just throw this content on the internet and just expect it to be successful. And Internet Radio, Talk, Play, and I do not use that service. And the reason being is while it's a great free service for a lot of people, it sounds horrible. It just is not something that, I think is worth it. You can get an audience there, I guess. It has all the phones and everything built in. I just would say avoid it. If you're going to use it, but really you shouldn't be. Okay, more points on the Internet Radio. And this is just a small blurb. And again, if you want to contact me at the website, we'll go ahead and set this up for you if you'd like. Internet Radio Network. It's a collection of similar programming, all broadcasting on the same stream, kind of like LRN.FM. And we actually have Ian Freeman, the program director of LRN.FM, in the chat room right now. So if you have any questions about how to set something like this up, he could probably help you. That's what an Internet Radio Network is. The basic setup, you need some automation software. You need a remote host audio transmission of some sort. You could use Skype. There's other options. You can even use more advanced things like some audio codecs, although that runs into the thousands of dollars and get really expensive. You need a phone hybrid of some sort or a PBX system. Not all networks have that, and if you have your host do it themselves, it may not be the best option, but the option's there. I would suggest doing it if you're going to be starting your own. The website needs to have full show info and podcast links of some sort. You want people to kind of try to stay on your website, and it's too complex to really fully explore here, so we're going to move on. But that's just an option as well. There aren't too many things out there competing for that, and the more we have, the better off we're going to be. Live video streaming. Many people prefer watching video versus listening to audio. This is just the way it is. With the internet, we can do live video streaming now. People love TV. They don't like the radio. People loved the radio, and then TV came around, and people started watching TV. So the same as on the internet. The people listened to podcasts and internet radio until it became possible to do live video streaming, and now people like watching video. Get this thing to refresh. So many people like watching video versus listening to audio. All you need is a webcam and a headset. It really doesn't take much to do live video streaming. You can use better cameras, but all you need really is a webcam and a headset. Agora.io is using this technology, or Agora.io, or whatever George wanted to call it. We're using this technology right now, and it's great. It's working out well. I don't have the best bandwidth, but it's there. Services. You can use something like we're using right now, Justin.tv, Livestream.com, Ustream.tv. You need a lot of upstream to do this successfully. You need a lot. I have around 500 kilobits per second upload right now. I can't do good video other than a PowerPoint, and my audio sounds like I'm talking through a phone. So you need to you're going to pay about $60 to $80 a month just for internet, so you can do the streaming correctly. Unless you live in an area where you have like Verizon, fiber optic or something, you're going to pay a lot to your cable or phone company just to be able to do this. Many of these services, that was my typo right there, many of these services allow you to directly upload to YouTube, which is really nice. Justin TV does it, I believe Livestream as well. Not sure about Ustream, but they allow you to upload this. And if my audio is too loud, tell me, because I'm getting people in the chat room. Okay, so YouTube. Everyone watches YouTube videos. If you're on the internet, you're watching YouTube. It's just the nature of the internet at this point. It's the easiest way to distribute videos. 2 billion visits per day. 2 billion visits per day. That is, 2 billion people, that's a large number of the world's population. Although, I believe the statistics were unique visits, which means that's probably 2 billion people coming to the website every day. That's almost everyone that's on the internet. The average person spends 15 minutes a day on YouTube. And I know many of us out there probably spend a lot more, but the average person spends 15 minutes a day on YouTube. It's a very open market. There's probably only about 10 popular libertarian channels on there. Like I mentioned, Mike Shanklin, George Donnelly, who's running this conference, has a fairly popular one. Reason TV has one. Stefan Molyneux is probably the most successful. It's a very open market. So, you can go on there and you can create your own media enterprise just by using YouTube. You can do anything from webcam videos. You could sit behind your webcam and rant and rave, and some of those have become really popular, like that really crazy dude that goes on there and does a thing. And he does the whole shaking his hands at the camera, and he's the blonde guy. I don't know his name, but he's crazy. And he gets millions of views because he's crazy. And you can do full documentaries. Really, the possibilities are limitless with a platform like that. And you can make some money off of it. I didn't mention that. If you're using original content, you can actually make some money off of pre-roll advertisements or pop-up advertisements on the videos. Very, 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 very inexpensive way for you to do this, because you can actually make a lot more money than you're investing into it. All you need to start is a webcam. Drinking with Bob, thank you, Kurt. That's what it is. Kurt Williams, irritatethestate.net, defiantforyou.com. Make sure to check him out. YouTube is to podcasting as video streaming is to internet radio. So YouTube is just a way to distribute content, video content. You can do video podcasting, but people aren't going to want to download a 150 megabyte file every week. They'd much rather watch it stream on your website, and YouTube is basically free streaming service. It is a free streaming service. You can upload your entire show there, and you don't pay a dime for it. And video streaming is to internet radio. Video streaming and internet radio are very similar in that way. And I hope I got my analogy right. My good friend Hank told me that I did, but I'm not so sure about that. So if it's wrong, you can blame him. Marketing is extremely important. It is very easy also. Marketing your libertarian new media enterprise is easy. The best thing you can do is set up a Facebook page and a Twitter account. And these things take you 5 minutes. And this is what I've done, and I think a lot of people could use this and be very successful. Set up an RSS scraper to automatically post your media to your Facebook page, and then link your Twitter account to your Facebook page. So let's say you've got a podcast, and this is what I do. You put your podcast RSS feed in one of these podcast scrapers. That's an application on the Facebook page. So every time you publish a podcast, it's going to bring in that podcast and post it on your Facebook page. Excuse me. And then, because you've linked your Twitter account to your Facebook page, it's going to post from your Facebook to your Twitter that you have a new podcast. So that way, you don't have a lot of overhead there. You just set it up, and you can just let it go, and it's going to update your fans, and you don't have to do any more work other than just uploading your podcast and putting a description and posting it on your website. Same for blogs. This is really good for blogs also, because blogs are typically published daily or twice a day, and you could have it doing that, and people will be reminded that you have new content up. Link to your site on forums and comment sections. If you do the forum thing, the BBS thing, go and put a link to your show or your blog or your YouTube, whatever, and put it on the website. If you use a comment section, when it asks for a website, put that there, because it gives you link backs, and that's important also for things like SEO. Purchase Google AdWords and Facebook ads. Not very expensive, and you can get a lot out of it. just ask George Donnelly. He's a master of using these types of things. He got, I believe, 10,000 fans on the Free State Project Facebook page back in the day just by spending like $400. You can do a lot with just simple Facebook ads and Google AdWords. And again, exchange links with other libertarian media enterprises. If we all share links with each other, then we can all promote each other, and it's the simplest way to get the word out about your new media enterprise, because people like something that they see, and if you endorse another program, then they'll click on that link and go to that website, and they might have another fan simply because you traded links with them. Websites and SEO. You need a website. Absolutely need a website. It's not an option. You can't just say, well, maybe I should have a website. No, you need a website. If you're doing anything as far as new media goes, you need a web presence. Don't just have a Facebook page. Don't buy a URL and link it to your Facebook page. I've seen this too many times. It's very, very, very bad. A website allows your fans and readers to keep updated with the newest media you are releasing. And especially if you're blogging, I mean, it's kind of like mandatory, right? But if you do a podcast, it's pretty much mandatory. If you're doing internet radio, it's pretty much mandatory. A hosted service is okay, but renting hosting is better. It's more flexible. It allows you to do more. It's just a better option. Do not use static HTML on your website. Just building a website with straight HTML is bad when you're doing something as dynamic as media. You want to be able to update the site as much as possible. So don't use static HTML. You can use something like a WordPress. You can use Drupal, Joomla maybe. I'd say stick away from that. There's a lot of content management systems out there, and they work very well for what these do. Whatever you use, make sure it includes RSS. RSS is mandatory simply because you want people to be able to get new content from your website as soon as it's published without having to actually go to your website. And I see a lot of questions in the chat room. I'd ask people, I'm looking at them, but I might not remember. So when we're done, if you could ask these questions again after the fact so we can go through them. I just want to make sure that I address all of these. Okay, as far as websites and SEO goes, SEO, search engine optimization, that's what SEO stands for. It is essential to make sure people can find your content on the internet. It is essential. Google ranks websites according to how many sites link in, the amount of traffic you receive, the relevance of your content, and how fast your website loads. All of these are very important. There's other things, but those are probably the most important things. You want to make sure you have a lot of link-ins. You want to make sure that you have traffic coming to the website, it's increasing. You want to make sure that the content is well described, which means if you put an image up, you want alt tags, which means if you put a podcast up, you want tags in your audio embed, and you also want tags and descriptions there, and you want to be able to make sure the title is relevant to what you were talking about. Google ranks according to these things, so make sure that you do these things, because if you don't, you won't be found. Google will not see your website or put it up as a relevant link. There's a reason why why I don't get a lot of traffic to my website, and yet when you search a lot of keywords, it still comes up second, third page, simply because I can do these types of things, and I can help anyone out there doing these. Use SEO software for your CMS of choice. So if you have WordPress, there's a million options there. Drupal has a lot of it built in, but you can add a few of them to it, and it'll help a lot. A well-written front page title will boost your Google rank. So don't just put the title of the website. Don't just be like blah, 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 blah. Just say yourwebsite.com, put a little dash there, home of blah, 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 put a dash there, and then put a couple of descriptive words. And that's going to help you be found on Google. And one last point, I suggested using Tumblr earlier. It is horrible for SEO. I've been using it for my personal blog for that purpose. So, why I say it might be good for blogging, it may not be the best. So I'm just putting that out there, just an FYI. It's going to make your website not show up. And the reason for that is because, again, Google ranks according to how fast your website loads. And Tumblr, unfortunately, is down 8 times a day. So Google really doesn't rank it as high as other things. Even if you use your own URL. I use CoreyMoore.net. That's a Tumblr site still. And it still is bad for my search engine optimization simply because the website is not up very often. It's not that the content is bad. When I hosted this site on WordPress, it worked very well. When I switched to the Tumblr, it was lost. So, just so you guys know. Conclusion. Old media is dying, so invest time and effort into new media. The new media market is open and very inexpensive to jump into. Libertarians have been successful at harnessing new media, but we can do more. There are many ways to get involved. Make sure you have a website, market the hell out of your product, and if you are not having fun, you aren't doing it right. And I mean, Ernie Hancock says that. I know a lot of other people say it. It's true. If you're not doing it to have fun, if you're not doing it to entertain yourself and entertain others, you're not doing it right. You're just getting on and ranting, and you're not doing anything productive. If your activism, and this is not just media in general, if your activism is simply just complaining and bitching and not doing anything productive, then that's what you're going to get out of it. If your activism is doing fun things and just trying to have some fun with it and entertaining people, then you're going to get more positive responses out of what you're doing. And we're going to do a Q&A here. Give me 1 second. If you'd like to call, the number is right there on the screen. I'm going to fix this this right here so we can get a bigger viewpoint of the chat. And Thomas Holbrook II is a great guy. He brought up a good point. Getting on the front page of Digg or Slashdot will give you a lot of traffic. Reddit also, and that's very important. That's a really great way to get someone to come to your website. You know, you can ask George. George has done a lot with that. We Won't Fly, a lot of his success had to do with using those types of things. I should have mentioned that. Unfortunately, that's hit or miss. You can post a million things to Reddit and it never get uploaded, and there's just that one thing that you posted that just happened to be really good for the hive mind, and it'll explode, and you'll get a million visits to your website, and it'll be Slashdotted or Digged or Reddited or whatever. You know, whatever term they're using anymore for when your website gets a lot of traffic and it just dies. That's what's going to happen to it. So those services are essential, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention those because that can be a real boost for you. So the Q&A is right here. I'm going to go through some of these. It's going to scroll through on the other screen too. I just wanted to get a nice little thing for people to see what's going on as far as in the chat room for when this is recorded. What percentage of people are getting podcasts, YouTubes from phones, tablets, as opposed to regular computers? According to and this is a question from Carol Moore. I believe her website is carolmoore.net. And Carol, I was looking at your website yesterday. A lot of great stuff there about Waco. And I missed your talk yesterday, but I'm going to check that out. So again, carolmoore.net. And her question was, what percentage of people are getting podcasts, YouTube, etc. from phones, tablets, as opposed to regular computers? I would say probably maybe 10 to 15% according to the statistics that I see. There's not really good tracking there so far that I've been able to find. Blueberry doesn't exactly tell me what the device is, but it says other devices. That's 10 to 15%. So people can listen to these things on their phones, and phones will be very important coming up here in the future. It's as simple as making sure your website can be viewed on a phone and that your content is able to be accessed by a phone, iPads and things like that. So I'd say 10 or 15%. Oh. Let me go through some of these. And Carol also said something about what I said when it came to using a CMS. You can use static HTML. I just don't suggest it. It's just bad for SEO. It's going to leave you behind on the web. And unless you know what you're really doing, you're not going to get a lot of good traffic that way. Is it legal to advertise free on Blogger? I I don't know the rules of Blogger. I would look at that. That was a question by Claude Lane Nickerson. I don't know. Let's see what else we've got here. And I know there's more new questions coming up. Okay, I'm just going to go back. Yeah, thank you, George. What is a CMS? A CMS is a content management system. Another question from Carol Moore. It's a content management system, something like WordPress or Drupal or something. It's PHP. You install it to your web server, and you just use it simply by adding things to a page. A lot of the templates and things are already built for you. You just add the content, and it automatically updates your website and everything that's involved with it. You can do your own custom styling and everything like that. And HX is asking me if he can call in. Go ahead if you want to talk about Stratus, because that's really important technology that people should try to invest in if they have the time and or money. 858-216-3433 is the number. Yeah, content management system like Drupal and WordPress and Joomla. Those are probably the three. I use WordPress for my blog, or I'm sorry, not for my blog, but for my Voice of Radical Dissent website, just because I needed to learn how to use it. Drupal, I would say, is my favorite, simply because it's so extendable, but then again, it may be more difficult for people to use. For beginners, I would suggest WordPress. Seriously, it's probably the easiest thing to use in the world, and there's a billion templates out there to make your site look unique. There was another question, I thought. And Hank said he was calling in. Okay, video editing. That was the question. That was from Thomas Holbrook, TH2, thenixtreport.com. You want to check his website out. For video editing, what would you recommend? I would recommend something like a Windows Media, Live Media Editor, or whatever that's called, on Windows. There's a few Linux programs. I can't remember what they're called. Mac, you know what, if you're going to do video, you might want to get a Mac simply because it's got the greatest free program there. Final Cut, I think it is. Final Cut Pro costs money. I know there's a free version that comes with the Mac, so video editing, just any software will work like that. And HX is on the line. I think I have one more question here. Maybe. We've got 5 more minutes, so here we go. Are you on the line with me, Hank? Alright, so you wanted to talk about this Adobe Stratus. Hey, hold on 1 second. He's not coming. You're not coming through for some reason. And I thought I was using, you should be. See, no reason why not. You shouldn't be coming through. What a great. We got like 5 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. Now hold on 1 second. We're gonna see. We run into nice little tech problems here. Gotta love these tech problems, and I don't know why he wouldn't be coming through. That same setup as I used for the radio show, and fine. I'm using my line in. Well, sorry guys. Yeah, he mentioned bandwidth, and it's a good point. Oh, you can hear him. All right, here. Speak. I can. It's still too faint. Okay, basically what he said was the bandwidth is going to be the real big issue. You got to make sure that your bandwidth is, well, I mean, you can't really do much of anything. So that's going to be the real issue. Is that what you said? Sorry, I'm just... Alright, folks, thanks for tuning in. I don't know what's coming up next here, but thanks again to George for everything. This is going to be up on YouTube, I hope. And see you guys tomorrow, 5 to 7 p.m. LRN.FM is the show. So talk to you guys then. See you then.